Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I hope all of you are doing well and doing great. So, before we start with anything, let me introduce myself. My name is Deepak Sharma. I have 15 plus years of experience in this field. So, I hope that you guys are going to enjoy this webinar. You are going to learn a lot, and it's going to be very much beneficial. And let's get started. So, what exactly is hacking? Let's talk about it. So hacking basically to access your environment with without your consent, without your permission. And for example, if you have opened the door, you require a key for that, right? And let's say someone is able to make a duplicate key, or someone has a master key. Without your consent, without your permission, someone is able to enter into your environment. Now he can try to steal something, he can try to take some sensitive content, and he can try to blackmail you, which is like a ransomware. He can just try to take your sensitive stuff out, and he can basically ask you to reveal all the information or give money to him or whatever the other things. So he can just do like this kind of thing. So similar case, hacking basically means that an unauthorized user is going to access your environment without your consent, and later on he is going to perform some kind of attacks using that information. And we are going to dive in more detail. So that's basically it's a hacking. There are again two types: unethical hacking and ethical hacking. What are they? We are going to dive in about that thing as well. Now, what is a Python? Python is basically a programming language which is basically object oriented. It's a high level and interpreted programming language. So if you talk about the development of it, this language was developed in 1989, and it's very easy to learn, it's very easy to understand, and it's very easy to have different integration. So you can integrate it with different languages. Now let's talk about the different features of Python. What are different features of Python? Let's talk about every feature one by one. There are a bunch of features. So it's one of the biggest feature is simplicity. As the name suggests, this is very simple to learn. So Python is basically designed in such a way that you can think from the code perspective rather than the syntax perspective. Now, if you have to add two numbers, you have to just focus on the code perspective. Like what I will need two variables. In one variable, I'm going to take the input, first input. In second variable, I'm going to take second input, and the third variable, I'm going to store the addition of these two inputs. So that's just a logic. So you don't have to worry about the syntax, because in this case, it's very simple. It basically gives the advantage to the user so that they can pay more attention to the actual code rather than the syntax. Next one is the open source. So Python basically is an open source, which makes it awesome because Python is free for everyone. You don't have to pay. Being the open source, it's like free. You don't have to pay money about it, and it's basically makes your life easier, simple, and making it more efficient for you guys. Third one basically is the portability. So when you are going to write the Python code on one computer, you can execute that same code into the another computer without any kind of hassle. So that's why it makes code sharing easier for everyone. And next one is your embedded and extensible. So in this case, Python basically allows code of other languages like C, C++, to be embedded into this. Like I said, it can be integrated with different languages. So it basically allows to integrate the code of different languages with this. So next one is interpreted. So it basically uses the interpreter, which basically means that the task of CPU and memory management are going to be handled by Python itself, which is eventually going to create less load on the server so that your server can be optimized and it can give you the better results. Next one is the huge libraries, which basically means that it has a bunch of libraries, so many set of libraries like matplotlib, scikit-learn, which with the help of which the complex problems can be resolved easily. And the last one is the object orientation, which helps to break down your complex problem into simpler parts, wherein you just have to you have to basically deal with the real life concept. For example, there are certain object oriented features like encapsulation, abstraction, data hiding, or inheritance. Like one of the very important feature in object oriented is basically inheritance. Now you are going to inherit some of the features from your parents, some of the grandparents, right? So it uses the same concept that your like derived class basically can derive some of the features from the parent class, and those features can be utilized basically for other things. Like for example, you can have certain features from your parent class, and in addition to that you can also have your own features. So if let's say in the parent class you have 100 lines of code, So if you want to reuse that code, you can just make a simple call and you don't have to rewrite those 100 lines. So with the help of inheritance, it basically makes your life easier. Okay, guys. Now let's talk about the goals of ethical hacking. What are the different goals of ethical hacking? Let's take a look. Again, ethical hacking can have various goals, but if you have to summarize, the primary goal of ethical hacking is to protect the privacy of the organization being hacked. Remember, this is ethical hacking, so in which case you are going to perform a hacking with the help of a consent from the company or the individual. You are taking their permission before you are doing the hacking, just to see that how much strong their environment is. If there is any loophole, any bug, any vulnerability, it can be fixed. Before that, it can be compromised by the actual hacker. Next one basically is that in the case of ethical hacking, it's one of the biggest thing is that it's going to inform all the hardware vendors, software vendors, any kind of tool technologies that you're using for any kind of weakness that you have. Also, you're going to get all the detailed report about the same thing. That's the biggest goal. Now, why we use ethical hacking? The reason is the information that you have is valuable because you are hosting your data on on some digital media. So basically, you have a digital content. So in the form of digital, you can have your customer information, client information, your any sensitive information. So if any hacker can get your sensitive information, he can try to blackmail you for that, and you have to pay for it. For example, ransomware. He can try to make your entire environment unusable. He can get access of your data. In turn of it, he can get some money. Maybe like he can just sell your sensitive information to someone else, and he can just try to demand some money, maybe to your from competitors or any other person. So that's the reason the information is valuable. You have to protect that information, and in the case if your information is going to leak, or if you're not able to maintain the sensitive information properly, then in that case it's going to spoil the name and fame of your organization. Now, what is a security threat? So any risk that can potentially harm a computer is known as security threat. So any kind of risk it can be. Now there are two different type of threats. One is a physical threat. Second is a non-physical threat. So physical threat can be internal to your organization. It can be external. It can be from the human, as you can see. Non-physical threats are your malwares, spywares, ransomware, Trojan, virus, worms, everything. These are non-physical threats. Now, you have learned about what is ethical hacking, what are the different threats, what kind of risk it may impose on your data. Now we are going to talk about the preventive measures, how basically we can prevent us from this. So basically, if you talk about preventive measures for non-physical threat, it's basically easy with the help of tools and technologies. Like for example, an organization can have various security measures. For example, they can use different authentication methods, strong passwords, smart cards, biometrics, multi-factor authentication. Basically, the organization basically should use some kind of cybersecurity monitoring tools, some SIM/SOC tools for the active monitoring. The organization should basically have IDS, IPS methods to to protect their environment in such kind of from such kind of attacks. So these are basically the preventive measures. Now, what are the ethical hacker skills? Like, what are the skills that you should basically have? So the skills basically that you should have is if you want to become a good ethical hacker, you should have a good knowledge in programming. Like for example, languages like Python, Bash, HTML, JavaScript, PHP. You should have a good knowledge in that. Other thing, you should have in-depth knowledge of operating system. It should not be like that. You should have the good knowledge for Windows 7 or Windows 10. You should have good knowledge of different operating system like Windows Server 2012, 2016, 2019, or Linux versions, and Kali Linux, Ubuntu. So you should have good knowledge about different operating system, because when you're going to perform a hacking, the person can use different languages, different operating system. You have to sometimes use a script. So you should have a very thorough knowledge in different fields basically. And the next one basically is like networking knowledge is basically very essential in this case. So along with the software knowledge, you should basically have a good networking knowledge as well. Now let's talk about like why we should learn like this program. Like what is the benefit of it? Why basically we should learn this program? So couple of reasons for it. Because hackers are basically the problem solver. They know how to disguise your problem, your program, your software, how to basically find the bugs in your software and how to utilize it. So you need basically a mechanism with the help of which you can make your entire environment more strong. Next one basically is your programs. Like basically this program is going to help you to have a good knowledge in for authentication, your authorization, confidentiality, integrity. So all these different components, what are these different components are, how you can make them secure, what are different security tools that you can use, what are different manual ways, automated ways you can use. So it will help you in learning everything so that you can make your company's environment more strong. Now if you want to apply for the jobs as well, then also in that case it's going to really help you, because once you're going to have a fair understanding about everything and your concepts are clear, you have done all the certain practicals, you will be able to even answer the questions of the interviewer very easily. Now what are different ethical hacking tools? There are various ethical hacking tools like NetSparker, Burp Suite, Nmap, Acunetics, Hashcat, SQL Map, and during the course we are going to learn and talk about each of these tools as well. Now, what is a social engineering basically? This is something where people basically get confused. So social engineering, if I had to explain, you can say this is a way through which the users are manipulated and they reveal their confidential information, which can be used for some unauthorized access. So in other words, the individual user, the sensitive user, the authenticated user, it's going to reveal the sensitive information to other people. So that's basically social engineering, wherein the sensitive information is going to be revealed. Now, there are different phases of social engineering. So what are those phases? So phases like, in this case, the hacker will try to gather the information. He will try to make certain attacks. He will try to, use that entire knowledge so that he can basically compromise your environment. So in other words, like everything has a life cycle. So in the case of social engineering, also it has a high life cycle. So in the very first phase, the hacker is going to gather all the information, like whatever the information that he can get. Once he gathers the information, then he's going to plan the attack, like how he can plan the attack in your environment. Once basically he has planned the attack, he's going to acquire all the tools, whatever the tools that he needs basically to perform the attack. Once he has those tools, then he's going to make an actual attack, and after that he is going to just get all the information, all the knowledge that he needs, maybe your passwords, your credit card number, your employee's social security number, or maybe Aadhaar number, PAN number, and then he's going to use it for different attacks. Now, there are various techniques of social engineering. Like for example, there are techniques basically like phishing, techniques like human emotions, there are techniques like delegating. There are various techniques that the hacker can use. Now, coming to the very important thing, what is the cryptography? Cryptography basically is derived from a Greek word, which basically means secret writing, which means that you are going to change the form of your message so that only the authorized user can read it. Now, for example, your word is "I love apples." I'm going to change the form of this message to something like this, and I'm going to send it over the internet. Now, unauthorized user, once he is able to get access to this content, he will not be able to read and understand what exactly this thing is. So you're going to change the form of your message so that only the authorized user can read and understand, no one else. Now, other thing basically is the crypt analysis. So crypt analysis, basically you can say it's art of trying to decrypt the encrypted message without using the same technique that you use for encryption, without using that key. This is basically done to see that how secure your algorithm is, how secure your technique is, with the help of which you have encrypted the message. It depends on various things like how much time is available, how much computing power is required, how much storage capacity that you have. Now we talk about cryptography techniques. Basically, there are various type of cryptography techniques. For example, dictionary attack. There's a brute force attack. Dictionary attack basically means that you have the list of known passwords and you will try to use those passwords if that user has set that same password. Brute force attack basically means that the hacker is going to try every permutation and combination just to see that how much secure your environment is, and there are different algorithms. So there are various type of symmetric algorithms, asymmetric algorithms, symmetric algorithms like AES, BES, asymmetric like RSA. There are various algorithms, and similar like you have a hashing algorithm. There are various type of hashing algorithms as well. So the algorithms like MD5, SHA, RC4 are different cryptographic algorithm. So MD5 basically stands for Message Digest 5, which basically has 128-bit hash values, which is no longer in use now because it has certain vulnerabilities. Next one that you have is SHA, which basically stands for Secure Hash Algorithm. It has various versions like SHA-0, SHA-1, SHA-2, SHA-3. It's one of the most popular hashing algorithm. And next one that you have is RC4, which basically stands for Rivest Cipher 4, which is used in protocols like SSL, WEP, and all. So that was all about this today's webinar. We are going to make a small practical here, which is going to give you a fair understanding how the keys can be generated. Let me show you guys one example. It will even give you more clarity how basically encryption works like and how it is linked. So let me give an example. So this is an example of asymmetric key cryptography. Basically, if you go to any of the sites, majority of sites, you're going to see that they use RS2048 key only. Now I'm going to use the recommendation, which is RS2048-bit key. It's going to generate a key pair, which is this, a public and private key pair. With public, I'm going to perform encryption. With private, I'm going to perform decryption. Now let's say my message is this. Hi, I am test and my account number is, say something like this. Now this is some sensitive data. I want to send it over the internet, wherein I want that only authorized user will be able to read it. Now the only the way the authorized user can read it is if I'm going to use asymmetric decryption. If this data is encrypted with public key, it can be only decrypted with the private key. Let's say I want to safeguard this data. In order to safeguard the data, I'm going to encrypt with the public key here. And please look at carefully, guys. This is the plain text. I'm encrypting with the public key, and this is my corresponding ciphertext when I clicked on encrypt. Now, once I clicked on encrypt, this is my ciphertext. Now, what I'm going to do is you're going to copy this ciphertext. You have to paste it here. Now, this ciphertext, you need that you basically, if you pay attention here, my original message was this. It got converted to this ciphertext, which is not making any sense. On the internet, people will see this ciphertext, no one will be able to understand. Now, the receiver knows that this is a ciphertext that he has to decode. In order to decrypt this message, he is going to use the private key here. Once he's going to use private key and he is going to click on decrypt here, like I clicked on decrypt, it's going to show the same message. But the thing is that you have to use the same private key. Now let's say I have changed certain bits here. In this key, maybe I added certain other bits. I changed certain data, I changed certain bits. Now if I'm going to click on decrypt, it's going to give you an error. Invalid key, because I have changed the key. Now, for example, if I'm going to change the message here as well. Hi, I'm Tess. My account number is this and transfer $1 million to C. Now you have to copy the public key, which we should have, but I wanted to show it again to you guys. This is the corresponding ciphertext which is being produced. You copy the ciphertext and use the private key. Click on decrypt. You will be able to find the same message. So that's the beauty of your cryptography, wherein now on the public world, I'm sending this message. So anyone on the public world, even on the internet, someone will try to perform eavesdropping, will try to see what exactly my message is. They will be able to see this message, not the actual message. That's the beauty of the encryption. I hope it's clear to you guys. Now you can automate this with the help of a code. Like in this case, this code at the backend is written on the Java, so you can have the code written in the different programming languages, with the help of which you will be able to use it. So I hope that you have really enjoyed this today's webinar and it was very much beneficial for you and you have learned a lot. And have a great day ahead, guys. Bye-bye.